Hey guys, welcome back to the plot, and here we have the finished allotment. Oh, I'm just kidding, obviously. Here is the before video, if you like. This is from my first ever video on YouTube where I show you the plot. If you want to see that video, I will put a link down in the description. Please watch it after you've watched this video. Now, for those of you who don't know, if you're new, I took over my dad's plot in May of 2023, but he'd already sown and grown, planted up for that year. So he kept growing on the plot until September, when he decided he'd had enough and he was giving it up fully. Originally, he'd been planning to keep the brassica cage for growing his dahlias, but he decided he didn't want to bother. I'd had the 6-week holidays. This video was taken in September, and 6 weeks of not really being able to come up very often had meant that it had become so overwhelming. Mother Nature takes over the earth very quickly when we're not around, let me tell you. So here it is. There were lots of hazards and things on the plot, that, like that arch, for example, that were not very child friendly and not very Lindsay friendly, if I'm honest, because I knocked myself on that way too many times. But yeah, this is how it looked. Now, it was this weedy because I'd let it go. My dad, it never looked like this when it was my dad's. My dad kept it much nicer than this. So let's see how it's looking today. Has it changed? Does it look different? Yeah, I think it does. And this works so much better for me because everything is in its place. It's compartmentalised. The paths are bigger so I can access things. It's still not finished. We haven't done the arches, we haven't done the gates, we've got the guttering on the greenhouse, the polytunnel cover needs fixing, one of the brick raised beds still needs weeding. There's still so much to do, but that is life on the allotment. And one thing I've been talking about for a few weeks now is creating a wildlife pond. So Mark went up at the weekend on Saturday and started getting on with it. Now, it's a small 50-litre pond that I've bought. I've bought a moulded liner, and I chose this little corner to put it in. I would have done things differently had I have thought of this at the beginning, but I didn't, and we're where we are now. So Mark started doing the prep for it, and he got so much done. Ta-da! We have a pond, yay! So Mark spent a couple of hours doing this yesterday, and I absolutely love it. So the reason we've got those stone slabs there is to just try and suppress the weeds. He's put them sort of as close to as possible the stone that is the boundary that goes underneath the fence, to try and prevent weeds from coming up, because I'm aware that the fence panel hangs over our side, so any weeds that grow there will grow onto my neighbour's side, and I don't want to do that to happen. So we're just trying to suppress it as much as possible. Now, that means that then I can pop plants on top of there in pots, and I'm going to plant along the edges, just like there, and probably there as well. Plant some plants around to just soften the edges a little bit. And I do have some marginals and an oxygenator to go in the water as well. So it should be a really nice little plant-filled wildlife haven. Now, Tap water is not ideal for a wildlife pond. However, it's all we've got because it hasn't rained for weeks and we've no water left in the water butts or anything. So I'm going to use tap water. It's going to be dry for another week or so, probably just less than a week. So I figured that the water will be beneficial to the wildlife anyway, even if it's got tap water in it, even if it is tap water. And I haven't bought anything to soften the tap water, but we have pretty good soft water around here in Yorkshire. So hopefully, I know it's the added chemicals, but they will dissipate over a couple of days. And I was told by someone far more knowledgeable than myself that a pond filled with tap water is better than no pond at all. So I'm going to show you the plants that we've bought for it. Okay, so first up we've got blue water spearmint. I'm not going to attempt the Latin because I'll say it wrong. I've got dwarf variegated pennywort. We've got Lismachia or golden creeping jenny, which I thought looked really nice in contrast with this Lobelia cardinalis, which is the Queen Victoria, the variety. I've had this in my garden before, and I wondered why it didn't survive, but that's probably because it's ideally suited to marginal areas. So the pond is just nicely filling up. I'm going to go turn the tap off, and we're going to plant up our aquatic baskets. So I've been pinching from my parents as well today, so they've kindly potted me up this marsh marigold, which I know looks a little bit sad, but it's because it's just been repotted and divided. And they've also given me, I should probably have gloves on for this, but I don't, this rather beautiful piece of oxygenator, which is going to be the first thing to go in, because there's no need it being there. In you go, fella. And so I can put the marsh marigold in straight away. See if it's tall enough, actually, because I don't want... Yeah, I think I'm going to have to put a little stone under that just to raise it up a little bit. But we'll do that afterwards. Let's put on the marginals first. So firstly, I've lined it, well, sort of half lined it, actually, with my arch nemesis, weed membrane. I would have liked to have had Hessian, but I didn't realise you had to line these baskets until this morning. So we've gone with what we could get. So it's kind of lined. And something else I've pinched from my parents, I've got some aquatic soil, because you don't want to put regular compost in your pond. So I'm going to fill this up and then start planting. The first plant that you saw me drop directly into the pond is called Elodea densa. And you usually buy a clump of it that's weighted. It's about 5 strands in a clump, and you need 1 clump for a 50-litre pond. So if you have a bigger pond, it might be worth you looking into how much you're going to need for the size of your pond. Now, it's going to grow, and it's going to do exactly what these marginals are going to do, which is to help add oxygen to the pond and to filter out excess nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus, which is going to help keep algae under control. Now, these marginals are going to serve multiple purposes. They're going to do just what I've said, and they're also going to provide food and habitat for wildlife. Now, the baskets also serve another important function, and that is to provide a platform which allows access to and from the pond for anything that might get in or accidentally fall in, because it's really important that this pond is just beneficial and not harmful to anything. So if you are creating a pond, you must create an access route in and out of the pond. Now, I've chosen the plants I have because they were an array of different colours. Foliage colours, foliage forms is very different. The flowers are going to be very different. And the more diverse a range of plants that we plant, the more diverse range of wildlife that we attract. And that's really important on this plot. Okay, so that's all planted up now, but I need to just make sure the weed membrane is hidden. And what I want to do as well is I want to take some of the gravel that we've got left over from the paths we removed, give it a wash, and then just top dress the pot with it just to keep the compost in even more. And I want to find a stone, which Mark's bringing loads over right now, so I'm sure I'll be able to find one that the water marigold can stand on just to raise it up that little bit higher. And let's do that now. I haven't gone with the gravel. I remembered that we've got some horticultural grit So I'm going to use this instead, just to dress the top of the pot and keep the compost in here. So I've given it a rinse just because it's been sat in a bag for a long time. It's very dusty and sandy, so just thought it'd look a bit better if it was nicely rinsed off. And I'm also going to use it to keep the weed membrane down so that that doesn't show. And there you go, all planted up. The oxygenator is in. She's floating around in there somewhere down at the bottom. And already seeing a lot of insects buzzing around. So yes, mission accomplished. So now I just need to think about what I'm going to plant around the edge. I'm thinking about some like low mound forming creeping plants, maybe like a creeping thyme or some more of the creeping jenny. I saw some in my local garden centre yesterday actually, and I think that would probably work planted in the sides as well. So I'll have to have a think about that. Now we've brought a lot of plants up to plant out today. Mark is just making these nets look less horrific, and he's doing a good job as well. We don't have any supports for this bed, so that's staying as it is for the time being. But I do have some more brassicas to plant in there, so I'll have to get some pretty soon. And yeah, so I went to my local garden centre yesterday and I picked up quite a lot of annuals, and we've brought some of them with us today. We were planning to come here today, and then our youngest wasn't very happy this morning, so I wasn't going to come. And then at the last minute we have come together, and now I've just phoned them and she's unhappy. So I'm probably not going to have as much time here as I had hoped for. But we brought that, or Mark did. And then I've got the sweet corn as well, which I'm going to try and get out before I absolutely have to go. I don't know how much of it I'm going to get out, because obviously this bed isn't done yet. But this bed, we did it the other day in the last video. So I'm going to try and get as much in here as possible, and then probably going to have to go. So, I know these aren't necessary, but it's only a little solar one, and I thought it looked quite sweet. So we've also got another little guy. Mark's going to pop him in, seeing as there he is. Aww. Yeah, this makes me ridiculously happy. Okay, so I think I'm going to get 12 sweet corn in this bed. I was hoping to get a row of 4, or 4 rows, but realistically it's just too squashed up. I mean, even there, there's less than a foot, so I'm going to plant them out now, and we'll save the rest, because they are looking pretty good, and we might plant some more in this bed once this bed's cleared. These module trays are from Container Wise, and I really like them. They've been really good. In fact, I'm glad to get them emptied actually, because I'd like to use them for something else at home. So I need another 1, 2. Oh, is that a piece of bird poo in a compost bin? And then this one looks a good one. And which one shall we go with? We'll go with this yellow looking one at the end. Not yellow, actually no, we won't. We'll go with this one. So straight lines, appropriate plant spacing, none of that seems to matter to me. But we'll see, won't we? We'll see. And I'm going to grow, like I said, dwarf beans along the front there, which I might just sow now, just before I go. Then I'll give it all a really good water, and see what other little jobs I can get done before it's time to go. So I'm going to sow these Ferrari dwarf beans, because I sowed these the other day in the last video, but I didn't do as many as I did of the Sinesta, and these are the ones that are really good for freezing, so I'm going to sow some more along the front of this border. This week I will be mostly planting stuff up. Yeah. It's the last week before the half-term holidays again. 5 weeks has just flown again. And so the kids are home for a week and we're supposed to be going away. I don't know whether we will or not. We're forecast rain, which is great. So I would like to get as much done as possible this week. Now I am full of cold. I look like I could guide Santa's sleigh tonight. Luckily it's the wrong time of year, so I don't have to. I've just carried a load of plants from the car and I am wiped now. I feel really tired. But I've decided, in my last video I said that I wasn't going to have a dahlia bed. Well, I've changed my mind, because you know what? Dahlias give me a lot of joy. As much joy as a cabbage ever did. So I'm having a dahlia bed. Plus, the dahlias were bought with a gift card that my little brother sent me for my birthday. So they're from my brother. So yes, I am going to have my dahlia bed. And it's going to be beautiful. I've brought some dwarf beans and other things as well. So I think it's time that we got that out. So I'll show you where the dahlias are going. So this is the bed I thought for the dahlias. This is the bed I originally wanted for them anyway. So, yep, and they're not the dahlias. They're my dwarf beans and some cosmos. These are my dahlias. There's some other things in there as well. But there are 5 dahlias in there. I had 6, but one wasn't growing, and I've just given the tubers a squish today, and they're completely rotten. So, dahlias will go in here. And then this bed over here. Now, I've been thinking about what I'm going to grow in here. And I'm still not fully decided. It's an east, well, that's south, so east is that way, and obviously there's the shed here. Now I do have a rose to plant here, which I'm going to plant, but what else can I plant? Well, there's quite a bit of slug slime here, you know. I haven't seen many of those critters, but they'll still be around. So these are some of my dwarf beans. This is a variety called Coco de Pampol. And actually, much like a Jersey Royal potato, they're actually only able to be called Coco de Pampol if they are grown in a specific area in Brittany, in France. So I forget what the actual name is, but today I'm going to call them Coco de West Yorkshire, because that's where we're growing them. These, I've been wanting to grow these for a while, and I managed to get some seeds this year. I first saw these beans on the channel What Vivi Did Next, which is a real one of my favourite channels to watch, so check her out. And she hasn't got an allotment anymore. She's just moved to and got a little back garden, which is very exciting to see how she develops it. But she had a London allotment, and yeah, she really loved to grow these. So if you want to know more about these beans, I will link a couple of the videos that she did about them down below, because I've never grown them before, so I'm far from an expert. Now, I'm not sure whether to give these a large bed or to split them between 2 of the smaller beds, but I am tempted to split them actually. I've got a bed here with the calendula growing in it, the self-seeded calendula, and then I've got these 2 beds over here. So I'm thinking that actually, because you know what, I'm going to have more squash, and I'm still thinking of, I've got the courgette bed here with zucchini in, the variety of zucchini. Obviously some of you will call these zucchinis. And I'm thinking of putting an arch sort of in the middle of the bed, like here, to go across to here, and growing some runner beans across, or climbing French beans, because this bed, I'm planning to empty it today and plant the perennials down the side of the polytunnel. This bed also needs to be cleared of the poppies, which is such a shame, but I need the room for food. So, yeah. Decisions. I find deciding where to plant things sort of induces more anxiety than it really should. Yeah, I think I'm very tempted to just go with the smaller beds. Yeah. I think it makes sense to put smaller crops in smaller beds, doesn't it? And allow the larger beds then to be for the larger crops. Plus it means if I'm not feeling up to clearing this bed today, and if I don't get it done, then it's fine. And yes, although there's some thistles in there that need to come out as well. So yeah, let's just get the dahlias done and then we'll decide later. So it's the following day, and I did actually get a few bits done yesterday, but I didn't get any more filming done. My dad and stepmum came to say hello. They were passing. I saw my auntie and had a chat with her for a while. I chatted with the neighbour from the house next door. I got a call from my mum. I got a call from Mark, and I ended up chatting quite a bit. So I was here 3 hours yesterday, but I didn't get 3 hours worth of work done. I'm feeling a bit better today, and I will show you what I got done in a minute. But first job on my list, really, I need to sadly take these poppies out, because I need to empty the soil from some of those big planters that we put it in when we were taking out the pallet collar bed. And because I'm not going to grow in soil in pots, it's not going to work well. I was just going to use it because it's what I had, but I have actually got some compost now. So I'm going to use the compost, and I'm going to plant up some of the annuals today and find places for them to go as well. So first thing I need to do though is remove this, because all of that soil is going to go into this bed. Now you'll see me weeding by hand a lot at the moment because the soil is so dry in beds where I'm not watering that they're just pulling out really easily. So yeah. Also, I've got a bit of a dodgy knee today because I've slept funny. That's being in your 40s, folks. Injured sleeping. Oh, shouldn't have got down if you can't get back up. There's a few calendula in here as well, which I might just see how many I can leave. Funnily enough, I have got a tray of calendula to plant out, so I'm going to plant calendula in and amongst crops. So there we go. Left some of the calendula in. Well, I've left all the calendula in for now. And then there's poppies just down this end. I'm not sure what I'm growing in this bed yet, so I don't need to worry about taking it out yet, but if I need the space later, then I can take them out later. But I do need somewhere to put the excess soil that we still have, and I'll show you where I'm going to be working on next. But first I want to show you what I did yesterday. So here is my dahlia bed. So there's 5. Let's go get uncovered. There are 5 dahlias, and we've got Otto's Thrill, which is a pink. I'll put some pictures in. We've got Arthur Hambley, which I think is another pink. I think they're all pretty much pink. This one in the middle is Skyfall, and it's more like the daisy shape. And I put that in the middle. That one looks really lovely. They're all around 1 metre tall. And I'm not pinching them out. And then we've got Lavender Perfection, and that one there is Sebastian. So that's a bit more of a peachy colour, and Lavender Perfection is more like a lavender pink. But it's still very pink by the looks of it. And so then I've interplanted with Cosmos Purity. Cosmos Purity should get to a similar height to the dahlias and look nice. Now, I did want it because it's 5, I did want it so that the Skyfall was in the middle, but because of the support rod going down the middle, I couldn't do that. So it is slightly off centre. So it's not quite the nice symmetrical shape that I would normally like, but yeah. And the Purity, the Cosmos, is leggy, but I've planted it a little bit deeper. So that's what I did there. Now let's go over to this side, because I also planted out my dwarf beans. Now everything looks dry again, but I did give everything a really good water yesterday, and I was told yesterday that the council have put us in a hosepipe ban, so because we pay £17 a year for water, and we must be using a lot, which we will be because it's not raining, and most people have used up the water in their water butts by now. So yes, because it's at least 6 weeks. I think it was April the last time we had any May. April the last time we had any water. So yeah, so I've planted those up, and they're doing all right. This is where I plant my annuals generally, but actually it's just going to be a flower border this time. So it still needs, I've weeded it sort of, quite vague weeding. I need to get a lawn edger so that I can edge this bit, and I need to get in with a spade or a fork and just get this creeping buttercup out of the edge. But I'm going to get this fully weeded best I can, and then we're going to plant up this bit with the perennials that we've got to come out of that perennial bed. I've got some poppies growing in here as well, if you can see, so we do have poppies here, and obviously foxgloves, which is lovely. So yeah, get some weeds out and get some annuals and perennials planted. Okay, I'm boiling and a bit worn out now, so I'm going to sit down 5 minutes. Unfortunately, I forgot to bring my drink with me. So, oh, look at that. Look at that grass growing up there. I'm going to get that and then sit down and think about what we're going to plant here. Let's do a little plot tour, and let's start with the bed I've just planted. Now, if you're thinking it looks like it's planted a little bit slapdash, then hi, I'm Lindsay. This is how I do things. So, I've put some perennials in here, like you can see just there. That is Shasta Daisy, Lacanthamoum Crazy Daisy. And you'll see here, there's some very dry, scrappy looking sweet peas that were just kicking around. I had spare, so I've put a little obelisk up. When I say little, it's 6 foot. And I've planted the 3 bunches of sweet peas as they are. And then in and amongst them, there is cosmos, some of the very leggy stuff that I've grown, the purity. I've planted calendula that I've grown from seed. Some cosmos, the sturdier cosmos is bought cosmos, and it's white, just says white. It says it'll grow to 60 centimetres, so it's a little bit shorter than purity, but we'll see how my purity does first. It might be stunted with it being so leggy. Anyway, we've got some verbena, annual verbena. We've got marigolds, French marigolds, more calendula, more verbena. I've got a hardy geranium in there. We've left some poppies. And then down here I've got some antirrhinums or snapdragons, more marigolds, more pot marigolds if you call them that, calendula. Some very sad looking cosmos down there. I'm going to try and stand those up in a second. They were a bit dry. Another Shasta Daisy. I've put a rosemary in there that I've had in a pot for a while that needed to go in somewhere. It might be a bit wet for in here when we do eventually get rain, because I've said before, get a lot of runoff from the polytunnel in this bed, so it tends to be quite wet certain times of year. Some lovely looking foxgloves that I'm excited to see. They look like they're going to be pink. That's great. More calendula, more another Shasta Daisy, and this is a helianthus, perennial helianthus, so perennial sunflower that's been in a pot. I've watered it to death and you can see the root system appearing there, so I'll cover that back up in a second. But yeah, it's had a really good water, although it's looking dry already, as we've got a hosepipe ban on the plots, the allotments. Not in the area. Yorkshire Water has said we're potentially going to get one, but we haven't yet. But the council have said it must be costing too much money to water, so no more hosepipes. And that's fine. It does take a long time to do it by hand, but you know, it's good exercise, so. So let's have a quick look around. You've seen most of this quite recently, so I'll keep it brief. We've got garlic that I weeded the other day, and look at it already. My herbs. There is some life in there still. I've just given it a water. Major Roman sage, my big sage. I keep saying I'm going to do this. I am going to cut some verbena, lemon verbena today to take home for some tea. My rose hasn't gone in the ground yet, but that's where that's going. I've decided I am going to plant sunflowers in this bed. This is going to be my sunflower bed because I've got quite a few. I think I've got 12, and they're all 6 foot plus varieties, so I think they'll fill that space quite nicely. Strawberries are looking good, and we've got some nice fruit forming. in there. These two beds look really good. This is the dahlia bed that I planted up. The perennial bed hasn't been weeded, but it has had the perennials taken out on the majority of the large poppies. The courgettes that I planted the other day are looking good. I did want to get some calendula planted in here. I'm going to be dotting the calendula in all over the place, to be honest. So, but I haven't done that yet because, well, I've only got so much time. So then we've got our cauliflowers are doing okay. Sprouts. And is it just sprouts in here? Or did we put some... I put turnips in some, Swedes in some... Oh, Swedes are in there with the broccoli. So yeah, it's just sprouts in there. And then cabbages in here. Still have more cabbages to get in. And I'm going to put some in the border that we've just planted at some point as sacrificial plants. The pond's looking good, but I did just have to rescue a little Phil. That's little Phil there. Little Phil the fisherman. I did have to rescue him from the bottom of the pond. So I hope you're okay, little Phil. I assume some critter has knocked you in, which is good because it means they've been here. I've seen a lot of birds around here, you know. So I haven't done any planting up round here. Little verbenas coming into flower. The verbenas are peach. The front one's peach and the others are Tuscany mix. So I think that is purples and reds and pinks maybe. So yeah, look at the fountain when it's in half sun. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, everything's looking good. I'm happy. I might cut a few of these sort of dead leaves off the dead and dying leaves off the marsh marigold. Yeah. So there we go. I would say the plot transformation is pretty much complete. Couple more jobs to do, but we'll get there in time. So thank you so much for being with me today. I hope if you're new that you would consider subscribing, say hi in the comments. Have a great gardening week and I will see you very soon. Bye for now.